Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm continuing my Chiron in the natal chart series, and we're going to talk about Chiron and Scorpio. I feel like this one is like long awaited, and yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. So Chiron in the natal chart shows the wounded healer energy that we have. So it shows a wound. It shows something where an energy where we're very triggered. It's very painful and almost unavoidable that we deal with that energy. And then when we do get some integration with it, it becomes a part of our healing gifts and wisdom and something that we really emanate in the most beautiful, pure way. But it's definitely a journey. Now, people with Chiron in Scorpio are meant to go into kind of the dark waters of life and emotional things. So it can be so intense and scary or terrifying to really feel the emotions that we have, and also to really connect with another human being on the soul level. And that is what is really required. So I just did a video yesterday about Chiron in Libra. Now, that is also a very relational placement of Chiron, but Chiron in Scorpio is not just about relationships, it's about in-depth, soul-connected relationships. Relationships with a soulmate that completely transform your entire being and life and, trigger a lot of feelings of jealousy or betrayal or even death, like going through a significant loss. Is quite likely with this placement. Like it's almost like it's a part of the soul contract to lose someone significant so that we can activate our gifts of like seeing through the veil of life and death and the continuity of life. This is all very scorpionic or plutonic, and that is something that is sometimes necessary for Chiron and Scorpio people. So it's like they ultimately fear loss and fear betrayal so much that it's like in order to really get to the gold of this placement, they do end up having to go through some sort of loss or betrayal, and sometimes both, right? In order to really get to the place of wisdom with this. So it's almost like that sticky area, that triggered area for you, like that thing that you most fear. It's like you have to face that head on. So like exposure therapy, you gotta like get right in there to the fear, and you likely won't even have to like try to get right in there. It's like something that you will be forced to undergo when you have this placement. So it's similar to being a highly plutonic person when you have Chiron and Scorpio, because the healing energies of Chiron coming through Pluto's sign is kind of forcing you to go into that, that plutonic rebirth, right? But you do also want to look at the sign placement of Pluto. And the aspects of Pluto to kind of see more of this story as well. Because, there's going to be different themes based on the Pluto sign. But there's definitely going to be some pretty significant experiences with death, with loss, with betrayal, with sex potentially too. Sex can be an area of transformation here, an area of a wound, but also healing of that wound. So I don't want you guys to think that like any of these areas you're debilitated or something, because that's not actually what it is. It's like there's a wound there, there's a trigger there, but like because of that, these areas can actually become some of your greatest gifts. So also with Chiron and Scorpio, there is a financial theme as well. Chiron in the eighth house, it's similar, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I will do the houses at a later date. But Scorpio does represent other people's resources, and sometimes people with this placement will actually end up becoming obsessive about the attainment of resources, but it's different than like Chiron and Taurus, that is like just for the sake of like having it. It's for Chiron and Scorpio, it's more about power. It's more about a feeling of control, because if you think about it, when we have this deep wound to do with loss, that can make us want to, one manifestation of it, that can make us want to accumulate and, hold a lot of, whatever we can get our hands on to just have that feeling of security. But ultimately, that security is fake. It's not really going to bring that true peace that they're seeking, but they may try to accumulate a lot of finances, resources, money, people, and hold on very tightly. There's pretty much nothing lighthearted about people with Chiron and Scorpio, even if they have other placements that may show more lightheartedness, like a Libra sun or like Aquarius. Deep down, like their real self, their true self is quite intense about every single thing. And that's also perfect. This is a lifetime where they're meant to be intense. They're meant to be the living expression of passion and emotion. And they often exude a kind of sexual energy or a sexual power over others, because people can feel your aura when you have Chiron and Scorpio. People can feel your healing energy and your gift to not only transform yourself, but to also be able to transform the people that you are in an intimate, close relationship with. So people can feel that. People are magnetized to it. A lot of famous people actually have this position, born in like 1947, 1948, and then there's another round later, right? But a lot of famous people have this. Musicians like Alice Cooper, I thought that was a really interesting one. And I always reference like classic rock, and like the people that are actually young or like my age maybe don't know what I'm talking about, but like I grew up on classic rock. That's like my favorite style of music. So then when I see people with a certain placement, I always bring it up, but I should probably talk about like newer music as well, but I just don't really care about it or know about it. But Alice Cooper is like a perfect example of this, because he really like does embody the dark, but like I feel like it's for a healing purpose. Like it's kind of like exposure therapy, right? Like it's very like Halloween and like the dark makeup and like the intense or emotional like lyrics, and like it's like a cathartic energy or whatever. And I feel like that's, very much the energy. Or Robert Plant, also Led Zeppelin singer, has this. The Eagles, like all the Eagles have it. Like before I came on, I like to look at celebrities with the placement that I'm talking about to kind of like get the energy. And those were some of the ones that stood out to me. There was many more as well. And that's something interesting to do as well if you're like really going deep into study about a placement, is like looking up famous people that have the same placement. You can kind of like tune into the energy of it. I always like to do that. So yeah, I think it's one of the more difficult placements of Chiron, right? It honestly, it kind of reminds me of me, but I don't have this placement. But I have Pluto and Scorpio in the 8th house, and I do feel like Chiron in Pluto's sign here does have some similar themes to that, having to go through loss, having to go through deaths and rebirths and transformations, and having to study emotions and having it be unavoidable, like to deal with emotional things and like fears of intimacy, fears of vulnerability, fears of sex, and everything that comes with deep, emotional, intense, intimate connections. Like this is the terrain with Chiron and Scorpio. And there's a deep fear of vulnerability. Like it's like they think that nobody else feels as much as they do. And you know, maybe that's true. Maybe not a lot of people can equal the depth that they do have, but also it's like a reframe of seeing that as a gift can be really beneficial here, because this is a part of your purpose. You're not meant to live a superficial life. You're not meant to fit in and just, you know, be a normal human. You're meant to be one of the very deep, like emotionally healing, you know, even there's an element of like the magical with Chiron and Scorpio. The highest energy of Scorpio is ultimately like works with energy, works with the spiritual realm, right? Like even you know, going through a death for people that have mediumistic qualities, and I'm speaking for myself also, but like this can be an initiation for you to talk to the other side. Because of how painful that loss is, that can force some people to kind of be open to the other side and utilize this ability. And quite often, people with this placement, it's not something that has to be taught. It's something that they were always doing. And it's not like they don't have to be taught, like, oh, the other side or heaven or spirits or what. Like, it's like they were born knowing that this is not the only life. Like, this is an old soul placement, and there's gifts for mediumship and healing and spiritual powers and emotional healing and you know, all the taboo things that make people flinch and cringe. Chiron and Scorpio people can just go right in there and own it, and that's really what they must do. Now, in early life, they might actually, as a rebellion to this, try to live a more superficial life. They might try to have casual relationships, or they might try to cut themselves off from all types of closeness out of that fear of vulnerability that is so intense. It's almost like it could be like paralyzing in some cases. Now, that could be a reaction to this. But that is not the way. The way is to open up and crack open that heart and the pain and let the emotions out and feel them and cry and scream and face the fears, face the traumas. There could be sexual trauma as well. There could be sexual abuse at a young age. And it's not something that they can live with being repressed. It has to come to the light with a trusted therapist, healer. Like, once they release whatever trauma it was, it doesn't have to be sexual, but it could be something sexual. It could be just that the early life that they were brought up in was very chaotic and, you know, potentially violent, or it wasn't comfy and cozy home life that they came from. And so now their nervous system, their responses, their reactions are more intense than the situation would permit, you know, and it could often be too that it's like past life trauma as well. So it might not even just be present life, but it's like all of that unconscious stuff needs to be brought to the light in order for this to become the magical power that it is. So if you have this placement, you're in for an interesting life. You can't say that it's boring. It's not going to be boring, but it's a good idea to just accept that you're intense and life is going to be intense. And that is your gift, and that is your magical healing wisdom and power. So yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this placement. If you have it, I'm sending you all the love and hugs, and thank you for watching this video. I'll be back soon.